I want to welcome everyone to today's meeting of the Rockland Board of Sewer Commissioners working session. This is an open public meeting, however, the working session for the Board of Commissioners, there'll be no public comment except for those parties listed on the agenda or if the chair recognizes you. The meeting is being taped for playback later on YouTube, WRPS. Then I'll take a motion to open the meeting.
Motion to open the meeting.
It's from Daniel. Second. Do I have a second? Second, Ms. Valley. All in favor, Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Valley?
Yes.
And Ms. Hutchins, yes. Meeting is now open. Robin is not feeling well. She has 2 drain layers. Excuse me. I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous working sessions of January 10th, 12th, and 19th that Sherry provided last week. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of those minutes, Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Minutes. Ms. Valley?
Yes.
And Mr. Hutchins, and yes. Okay, Robin will not be joining us today. On the drain layers license, we have 2 renewals, both checked out, and both have done work for us again as renewals in the past and continue to work with us. They're McDougal Brothers and D.S. Benoit of Abington. Do I have a motion to accept those 2 renewals?
I make the motion.
I have a second.
Second.
All in favor of the 2 drain layer renewals of McDougal Brothers and D.S. Benoit? Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Valley?
Yes.
And Mr. Hutchins said yes. That's unanimous. That's fine. Okay, before we go into that, I want to go into a little bit on capacity. Those of you who watched the rate study meeting, a question was raised about when would we be able to start opening the gates, if you will, for petition, for permits. Currently, to renew everyone's memory, we have 2 on the pending list and 1 that was previously approved. We have to discuss a little later on. But as of today, not the monthly average, the 12-month rolling average is 2.8 million gallons a day. That's 300,000 gallons over our permit capacity. Now that number, that 2.8, is what we average for 12 months. Now the I&I study is going to remove 120,000 gallons, rounded up. That's still going to leave us 180,000 gallons over capacity. Now to remove that $180,000 is going to cost us $1.2 million. But to safely add that, anything to the system, you should be at a steady rolling average of 1.8 million gallons. That 1.8 million gallons gives you capacity for heavy rain events with the regular rain, the 5-year storm, the 10-year storm, the 100-year storm. That's your safety bit. But if we just want to get to 2.0 million gallons, we need to remove 680,000 gallons more than the 120. And that's going to cost us $4.5 million.
We don't have it.
That's just right. That's just to get the 2 million gallons. To me, that is where you start maybe thinking of maybe letting people in. Now, if we cut our I&I costs to say, okay, we're not going to charge them what it's really cost, what we have been charging at $3 a gallon, we still got to come up with another 2.1 million. So we have 3 pending, maybe only 2, 365 Concord, 320 Concord, and Manzella. Now the totals for those 3 projects are 9,240 gallons or 101,640 gallons with the I&I calculated in. As it stands now, we can't even think of letting them in.
How much is the total gallons on that?
The total removed, the actual is 9,200 gallons. With the I&I, EPA I&I removal, it's 101.
Do we give Manzella the okay, get a permit?
Here's the small potatoes.
Yeah.
And we got to think long and hard about it, what we're going to do. I mean, really long and hard. If we open up, the goal was originally to free up 67,000 gallons of I&I. And then we could have released some for additional revenue in that. But no one could have predicted what we're going through the last 4 months with rain. I mean, this is absurd. And we haven't even got to the spring yet. the heavy rains are coming starting next month in May. So,
You sound like Don Kent.
huh?
You sound like Don Kent.
Yeah, but well, we've really got to start thinking of what we're going to do. The one thing I don't want to see us doing is falling back on saying, oh, we'll get the developers to pay it. Before you can get the developers to pay, you have to have a bench line. You've got to establish, okay, now we have some capacity. We do not have any capacity now to give up. So we got some real heavy thinking to do.
When's those low flow? From midnight on till 4?
Midnight on, usually when they look at low flow, it's like between the hours of 1 and 5 in the morning, 1 and 5:30 in the morning. But even so, low flow right now, if you look at that, it's going to be well over 2.5.
I'm just saying, if you had a real good low flow, you could put tanks off to the side and bring them in off that low flow, you know what I'm saying?
We can't, we don't have any room for tanks.
I know. You don't own that property going out? All right?
No. Besides, that's all wetlands. Everything from about 25 yards behind that house in the street back here is all wetlands, being wetlands.
So isolated.
Yeah, no, we are. I mean, but that's one of the options we're going to be looking at for that EPA study.
I mean, I saw something years ago, and they talked about taking a baseball field, a football field, a soccer field, and it tore it all up and put a big tank underneath it. And off peak hours, it pump off that tank.
Yeah, well, that may be one of the options we look at. The CWMP, this third phase, gives us those options. That is due the end of the next month. We will have that. But, I mean, we've got some issues to really think about. I mean, as far as, and I know we're going to get pressure. There's some big projects out there. I mean, you're looking at Park and Howard, you're looking at Holy Family, you're looking at potential shingle mill. But, and the one thing you can't look at is that, say, oh, you have an existing stub. That existing stub means nothing. If the existing stub's been there for 100 years and it's not, or 10 years, it's not being used. As of July of 2022, that's where our flow started being measured by the EPA. That's when they say, okay, from this point on is all additional flow.
So anything that goes on, gets tapped on.
We can't take them on anything right now. That's the bottom line. That's why I wanted to talk to water and say, okay, how are you handling it? I mean, they're on the flip side for us. This rain is a godsend for them. It's rejuvenating reservoirs. But you know, what's the point if they open up and throw open the connections? We can't accommodate them. Food for thought. Food for thought. Okay, where we at? Continue. Oh, old permit letters. Let's bang that out. Did you give some thought to the Corn Rock, which was 365 Concord Street? I wanted to send them a letter, and I read it into the record last week, saying, you know, we'd like to extend them 1 year if they want to come in, but we can't promise them the same phase.
Correct.
Okay, I'd like to send that letter out.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Who would be sending one to?
There's also one for Shinglewood and Beechwood. Beechwood, I could see shipping that letter out. Shingle Mill is a tough one. I don't know. I'm weighing. Their next hearing is, I believe, April. I'm wondering if we should wait to see what Concom says about that.
So just to reiterate, I cannot comment on Shingle Mill.
And I know that.
But I would like to send the letters out to 365 Concord Street and Beechwood.
Okay. Here's 365 Concord Street.
Where's Beechwood?
Beechwood was granted a permit for X amount of units in 2010. They built Y amount of units. And then it got tied up in court and what have you, a myriad of things. They came back to us in 2020 and wanted to extend their permit at the time. That board didn't see a capacity issue, and they extended them. But what I want to do is I send them a letter now saying unless we see concrete plans within a year, you you know, we can't grant them that.
That's how I get my guns.
Now, with that letter, I'm going to be sending them the minutes of the meeting that they were approved, the old fees, and what their new fees will be.
I do have a question on those new fees. I'm not sure where that fits in our agenda today.
What?
I just want to clarify.
Well, let's jump right into it. Okay, wait a minute, this is where we are with
So,
this.
vote to send letters to 65.
Okay, let's take it as it rolls then with the fees.
So I just wanted to clarify if the sewer and maintenance fees, $20 per,
No?
and the I&I removal, new fee, engineering, does that apply to residential
It applies to anything over 440 gallons.
over the 440?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, all right.
Now, I'd like for now, it is entirely up to the board to leave the other fees alone until July 1.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay, because I think we should revisit, do we want to go up on the permit fees and the tie-in fees, $50 here and there. But again, with the fees, as it stands now, we're in no rush.
Yeah, well,
Can't take anybody in.
but they are going to apply to some approvals.
Yes, and that's,
So, yeah, we do need to know.
we need to have a chat about that. But while we're on fees, I would like to bring up the discussion on municipal fees.
Okay.
To me, the municipality, Rockland, town of Rockland buildings pay nothing. In a utopian world, that's all well and good. But I'm gonna give you an example of just the kindergarten, the elementary school, and the high school. They use approximately $429,000 a year in sewage treatment. Bottom line, that comes out of our pockets. We have to pay for that. Now, when you look at what I just told you at the opening statement of the meeting on the capacity, we don't have the money to go after I&I. The town owns this problem as much as we do because they ignored that municipal order back in 2006. So what I would be in favor of is that any projects coming down pays a connection fee. Now, if it's an existing building and they remodel it, they pay a connection fee for new connection. Just so all future municipal buildings at least pay the new connection fees and the permit fees. I'm not saying we charge them user rates for now, although, for example, there's no beating around the bush, the elementary school that just went up, they've got a significant I&I problem up there of high flow. A couple of things where they were built and fixing the old problem. But if they have a permit for, let's just use an example, what I come up with, 1,000 gallons a day. And right now they got I&I coming through there to well over 100,000 gallons a day. Well over 100,000 gallons a day.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we should give them, they own the piping that ground sits on. It's up to them to maintain it. I found that out. So you say either you fix it or you're going to be assessed the user rates. Again, not for discussion here now, I mean, not for vote, but that's what I'm thinking of. And, you know, that would apply to town hall, the fire department, police department, library, park, highway building, senior center, community center. They never paid for connection fees, but they charge us for billing. We pay, what, $15,000 a year?
Yeah.
$15,000 a year for them to send out our sewer bills. We pay, but we take no revenue from them. So that something's wrong with that equation. So like I said, I think you need to think of a fee structure to go into effect in July for any new buildings. It's not corrections. That's connection. And especially the old buildings, they renovate them. You know, unfortunately, you're gonna have to pay a sewer fee to connect the sewer. You didn't pay it in 1950, but you're gonna pay it now. And we dedicate that money for I&I that we get for any municipal collection fees. We can cover that with an ordinance. But it's a cinch, we're not gonna come up with enough money to fight I&I to get us to the point where we can take in people. And you know, I'm just throwing these things out on the table to bounce around and tell me I'm insane or what have you, but I'm open to suggestions as far as where else we can get money.
If they put the new pipe in, right? Or they go by an old pipe?
They went up in the elementary school, they try to tap into the old pipe. They keep saying they find pipes. But they tried last week. I got a call Monday, Tuesday, they wanted to go up and start working on the old soccer field. Well, I told Gary to go up with them, from Veolia to go up with them, and to give me an accurate look at what was coming through there for flow. They popped the cover and it just closed it right back. The flow was so bad, they couldn't even measure it. So I called again today, and I guess they did some work, but I'm told they haven't given me any estimates yet, but there's still way too much water in there to do any significant work, and you gotta wait till June.
And it's all I&I.
So, yeah. That whole area has been a problem. That is an extremely high water table there anyway. You dump a new building there, that's gonna wreak havoc with the water table, and you don't know where it's gonna go. My concern all along was on Lower Reed and Pacific Street, because it's gonna push it that way. And that's another high flow area.
And that used to be a dump.
No.
I was told by a guy back in the early 50s, it's used as a dump.
Well, maybe in the early 50s, but I'm a baby of 1951, and I played t-ball and baseball in that field, and it was always
You guys ever go up there now and watch the kids play?
no. That's always been a baseball
and
field.
everything else and holes and...
Yeah, but they've done a good job with that once they put the track up there. But if you sneeze on the ground up there, it goes underwater.
So just a general question when they start these projects, be it the elementary or the fire station or what have you. Isn't this I&I and the piping not part of the original engineering?
They've never considered it because there's always been a freebie. They've never had to pay for anything. What, they don't pay for water?
Mm-hmm.
They don't pay for sewer.
Mm-hmm.
They pat that all up on the residents in their tax bill.
Right. And so I'm not sure if I want to go as far as the user rate fees, but
Excuse me?
maybe we should be looking at I&I fees
Well,
for new connections.
what that would open up is Pandora's box, because the only way you could to do that, when this I&I year one monitoring comes on for me, I had already had conversations with Frank from Weston Sampson that I want to put, the elementary school feeds out to Park Street. So what I wanted to do anyway was put meters from Spruce Street, Forest Street, Spruce Street, Salem Street, Park Street down to West Water, up to John Dunn, you know, like maybe 3 meters. And he agrees with that. Now, if we put a meter outside of where the school line is by the Sunfield culvert, we're gonna know what's coming through there.
Mm-hmm.
And then all we do is backbeat to where that lateral connects to the service line. And say, okay, you've got to correct that. We'll correct from here to the street. But if you're pushing 130,000 gallons a day our way, we can't afford that. Now, the bummer is, you know, it's a catch-22 story. That they're going to say, well, the residents will have to pay for that. Well, they're going to start putting their thinking caps on to find out where they can get some more money to help us with I&I, because as it stands now, they can't let anyone in to develop, and they're going to have a problem with that. and they're gonna browbeat us. But if we don't have it, we don't have it to give.
It's 3.8 right now.
So, and
3.8
that's,
right now, it's 3.8 coming through
and
there
that's
now.
that's our
And-
catch, is that we don't have development fees to pay for the I&I removal.
Using those Gosling pumps, both of them, for pools.
They're both running, they've been
Yeah.
running since 7 o'clock this morning. Now, there's another problem that came up today, that in the influent building, in the influent building over here, when it comes in, the first stage, for lack of better words, is a scraper.
Yeah.
It's a screen that takes out your toilet paper,
Yeah.
solids, what have you. Well, I found out today that it's caking up with grease because the grease removal unit hasn't worked in 8 years. So they're physically scraping it with a rake, rake off, get the grease off. So Rick's answer to that was, well, we could throw chemicals on that to break the grease down. I'm saying, yeah, that's great, but the chemical's gonna run you $8,000. You confirm it's $8,000. What's a new blanket gonna cost? $12,000 to get the new blanket. But right now, they gotta do something because they're manually scraping that. But it just goes to show that, I mean, we're gonna be focusing on getting that phosphorus system up. We're not gonna have any money for I&I. I mean, what, $100,000 a year? That's $200,000 a year, divided by 661. And they're not gonna like it all when they say, we cannot give you a permit to conduct new development. I mean, it's gonna be tough getting a 4-family house in, that's 440 gallons, a 4-bedroom house. 4 bedrooms is 440 gallons.
That's not much for 4 bedrooms.
No, but but after that, the 1101 kicks in for the EPA. I mean, if they, think of this, you got a 5-gallon pail right now, and we've got 6 gallons in it. If we take 2.5 gallons out of that, if we take a half a gallon out of that, we're still a half a gallon over capacity. Doesn't mean we can put another half a gallon in. We've got to get below that 5-gallon level before we can even think. And if we go into the summer months and we're like around 1.8, 1.9, they're gonna say, oh, see, we're below. You're not below.
Right.
You're not below. You know what, I'm saying? You need a safety margin there somewhere.
Right, to account for this.
And they're gonna say, well, your midnight average is low, 1.8. Okay, use the 1.8. We're a long way from 1.8. I mean, we got a fine needle we got to thread here with the EPA. If we start letting people, they're gonna go, what are you doing?
I'm not gonna go here, I'm not getting bracelets.
No, you're not gonna be getting bracelets, but the town is gonna get fined, heavy. Now, we know there's a fine coming. So that's why we've got to be very, very careful and cognizant of anything we do. Now, we're gonna send this letter. I think we're pretty much obligated to 365 Concord Street, but he's gonna have to pay those fees. He's not gonna like that, and he does a lot of work for the sewer department. But the flip side to that is he doesn't do work for nothing.
No. Who's this? Who's the contractor?
Dan Dow. So that's where we are. I mean, we've got a huge problem. And when the EPA was in here on May 5th, I believe, of last year, Mike was there, and John Clifford was there, and Doug and I think Jen were there, and the compliance director was over there, and John Clifford says, yeah, we know Rockland's got an I&I problem. She just looked at him, I mean, and flat out said it. They not only have an I&I problem, they got a major capacity problem. You're over capacity.
What do you say then?
They just clamped up. But, I mean, we got to deal with the numbers. And where they went awry in the past was saying, okay, well, we'll let this one come in. He's going to give us $1 million. We'll find it. We just spent $300,000, and all we're going to get is 120,000 gallons out of it. I mean, you could be throwing money away big time. I mean, this year one monitoring is gonna help, it's gonna find some that we can go after. But that some is just gonna be to allow what we already approved, and, you know, like I said, we've got 3 on the list for just April. And I'm sure on Monday, next Tuesday night is the Board of Selectmen, when I'm gonna be making the appeal for the 1 million in ARPA and 1.5 bond. If you two wanna go, I gotta put it up as a meeting. You don't have to go if you don't want
Well,
to.
go as a town, go as a town taxpayer.
No, if you win that meeting, it's gotta be a Zoom meeting.
I'm gonna say, yes, I'd like to attend.
Okay, so I'm gonna put it up as a meeting anyway. If you show, you
Next
show. If you
Tuesday.
don't, you don't.
Yep.
My intention is a 10-minute presentation. I want to hit some things on the fee schedule, but I'm also going to end that because I know they're going to say, when can we let people in? And I've talked to Wright Pierce, I've talked to Weston Sampson, and they're both saying the same thing. You're at least a year away from even thinking of that.
I think the perception is that when we remove that I&I, we can start letting people in based on the flow coming in if we remove that much flow. And that's really not the case.
No.
We have to remove the 11 to 1 before a new person adds.
Well, we could let some in if we get some small ones, you know, like this, like Manzella and I want to say another name. Another one's coming in for a small one, but we got to be smart about it. If the likelihood of another 365 Concord Street, a large development coming in, of more than 8 bedrooms, no, I can't see it.
Well, and I think if we're going to let anybody in, then we need to quantify it and clarify it,
Oh, we're gonna have to,
because
that's where that waiting list
ourselves
is
up to
going.
everything.
That's where that waiting list is going to get kind of funky, because you have someone come in that says, I've got a 20 apartment unit, I want to come in. He's going to tie up that waiting list for a long time, a couple of years before he can get in.
We'll let them in phases to meet whatever.
You can't let it fit. If he's
Well,
doing an
what I'm
apartment
saying
building,
is that,
if he's
you know,
proposing a
it's-
4-story building, he's not going to do one floor,
It
then
needs
add
to
another
be,
floor.
well, I'm saying it needs to be spelled out, because he's gonna turn around and say, well, you let in this
Yeah.
smaller person, what, you know.
But the main thing is you got to realize when they say you have a 2.5 million gallon capacity, that's your design capacity. That means that facility, when brand spanking new in Utopia, is designed to handle 2.5. Now, when they come up with that number, they look at the 1,000-year storm, the 100-year storm, whatever. It sounds stupid, but they do. Now, that 2.5 is your worst-case scenario that you can handle. When you say we can handle 6 million, that's where that 1,000-year storm comes in, the 100-year storm. You got some storage capacity. We already exceeded that twice in the last 3 years. And it's going to get worse. We've reached maximum development because this place is not in utopic condition. I mean, and you can too. We're going to be shutting a lot of this down to do upgrades. So when you shut down, we have to come up with a game plan to still process that. Well, you're not going to be able to process 2.5 million gallons a day when you're constructing.
We got to divert it to the other equipment.
You got to divert it, but number one, you're not going to get that equipment on this site. Number two, the EPA will never in a million years let you store any of hazardous waste material off the site. So this place has got to function, but you've got to cut down what's coming in so you can handle it during the construction. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not going to like hearing that.
I mean, it's, some places you have to divert it into some kind of holding.
Right, but where do we divert that? That's what I'm trying to say.
I don't know.
We divert if it rains. Look at just today.
I know.
Our tanks are completely full. Completely full. This one, the clarifier out here, the first clarifier, you've got 6 inches of freeboard. Place is in bad shape.
Everybody is having problems with these sewer treatment.
Everyone has problems with the sewer system, but again, we let ours get to the point of we're at the point of no return, and now it's, we can't go backwards. And everyone keeps saying, you're preaching doom and gloom. No, I'm preaching reality.
I just wondered, yeah, I'm just throwing this way far-fetched, but portable units like this, let's have portable units like this. Someplace you get a hook up, clean everything, and send it on.
You could probably get a frock tank, a big flatbed frock tank that holds 300,000 gallons. Okay, but look how big that would be. Look how big that would be. Where are you going to put it here when you have equipment doing an upgrade?
Problem is, you're right, you'd have to park everything out in the street.
Hold it, you're going to have, we've got the I&I, that we're going to go over the I&I kickoff, we had a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be storing their trucks out in that driveway, and they already said that driveway is going to be full of trucks.
I know.
Now, when you start doing the upgrade, you're going to have cranes, you're going to have a lot more. And remember, 95% of this place is underground.
Yes, they'll be digging up the asphalt there.
Yep.
To check the pipe, see if they need to be replaced.
No, it's going to be a logistical nightmare.
I mean, I just throwing that out there.
Oh yeah, no, you got to throw it out. You got to start. We got to start planning on it now.
I mean, I know they have the trucks to pick up asphalt, reprocess it, put it right back down again. I mean, have some kind of
Well, that's
sewer treatment
okay.
plant.
But unfortunately, they don't do that with poop.
I mean, I figured the federal government had something with the Army, the Army, and
Yep, yes, okay, they have that.
Okay,
I mean,
all right.
yes, you're right.
But that's getting somewhere. I mean, there's an answer. It's
There's
just
an
gonna cost
answer,
us some money.
but everything has in this world has a
It's gonna have
price.
its price.
Now the problem is when we go into this upgrade, it's got to be planned
Oh,
to
yeah.
the nth degree because you've got to have excess capacity because you're going to be shutting some things down. So that's what we've got to look at.
I mean, I was, because the Greens and everybody else use the stuff out these camps they built,
Yeah,
you know? That's what I'm saying.
yeah. We got to have, but we got to
Do you
play.
think the EPA would have access to some of this equipment?
They can't even handle sludge, Dan.
Oh, thanks for ruining my plan.
So that's where we are in that. Okay.
And the CWMP is gonna give us some alternatives.
The CWMP is going to give us, they're going to think of options, alternative methods. But that would be incorporated into an upgrade. And alternative methods for storage. Okay, for example, one of them we already know is connect to the MWRA.
Yeah.
What's another upgrade? Okay, offload to another municipality. Now think of that, okay. Let's just think, for example, we're gonna offload to Hanson. Okay, I'm using Hanson as an example. Say we're gonna offload to Hanson. What has to take place? Some very serious planning, 3 years engineering planning alone. Then you're gonna do some serious design work, piping. Then you're gonna do the actual physical work. So that's 10, 15 years, 10, 12 years alone right there. Again, I keep going back. Why didn't we do this in '07?
Right, well,
So, let me see, there we are. Well, those fees,
Who's the other guy, want to pump it to Hull?
MWRA.
yeah, that's in.
Hull's no, they get their own sewer treatment plant. Brand new.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, I'm holding off on Shingleton primarily because of you guys, and I want to think that one over. I am going to go, I'm going to write Beechwood. Beechwoods is off and done. So I'll get that to you for next week. Next week, do you want to have a meeting on Tuesday? Well, we're going to be meeting Tuesday night, or do you want to make it Thursday?
I don't think I can do Thursday.
Okay, Wednesday, I'll do it around your schedule. Dan's going to take his eyes out.
Oh, well, I'm good for 6 weeks.
Want to still do Tuesday, just get through some of the stuff we have?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, next week what I'd like to do is talk more about the, Bob Galvin. Bob Galvin is going to be getting us the rules and regulations this week. So we'll have that, and what we're going to do is we're going to effectively have a rules and regulations and an ordinance. To try to tackle all that at once was a nightmare. So what we're going to do is leave the ordinance as is. We'll use the rules and regulations that's going to mirror the ordinance to go along as we upgrade and document it and make changes to see what we want to incorporate into the ordinance and take out. At least we're doing it some kind of walking method rather than diving in.
And is he going to add a change to the ordinance that will allow the rules and regulations
To take precedent. Yes, he is. That's the language he's adding.
That's what we need.
Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about was Zoom meetings. I'm going to put the notice up today. I wanted to get out of the cost reduction about whether they want to, let us know if they want to meet, what have you, yada, yada, yada.
When is our next monthly meeting?
The 20th or 23rd? No,
23rd is a Thursday.
23rd.
Okay.
And is that a Zoom?
That's a Zoom. And it looks like they're going to be extending Zoom.
Oh, I hope so.
Is that true?
Yeah, so they're going to be extending Zoom. The I&I kickoff meeting. Had a meeting with Weston Sampson, Green Mountain Piping, last Thursday morning. We exchanged the contracts, signed the contracts, gave them a notice to intent, and as it stands now, the I&I work was going to start on March 27th. After a phone call before I just got in today, we may be putting that off to April 3rd to get everything finalized. There's going to be an addendum coming through on the I&I work to cover police details, so that police details will be covered by the ARPA fund. So I'll be seeing that addendum hopefully sometime this week. The work hours are going to be 8 to 4, 4:30, 5 days a week. They're going to start with sealing the manholes. They got to wait till the water level drops down before they can get into the piping for the lining. So that'll probably be, they're estimating mid-June for that. If you went out the 100 and some odd days, whatever it was, it looks like the work will finish up on August 28th, I believe I had it on. August 23rd or August 28th. That's when all that work will be done. And that's to remove 120,000 gallons of I&I. Now the one-year monitoring program will be kicking off mid till the end of April, which will piggyback that. Because Western Sampson will already have people in. I'm trying to save some money on the loose ends. They could do some, double work here. Multitask, I think it's called. So we get them to do a little bit more while we're doing it. And that one-year monitoring is going to be putting 15 meters throughout town and looking for further I&I work. And those meters will pinpoint the high hitters. So then all we got to do is pump some money to go after that. That was that meeting. What I have now is, Sherry, you wanted time to rethink about the contracts to sign for the addendum of the rate study. If you would, there's the rate study contract I'd like to get signed for $17,000 more.
One question I had on that rate study contract, they noted in the first paragraph that provide strategies for the town to finance its sewer operating, yada, yada, yada. But none of that is spelled out in the additional scope items. What assistance are they actually giving us?
Well, what they're going to be doing, that assistance is going to be coming back, at the end of next year to see how their rate study went. How we're going to, should we modify it? They're coming back year 1, year 3.
Oh, that's the strategies then?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the strategy. Year 1, 3, and 5.
Okay.
They're going to come back. That's what that's for.
All right.
Because what I wanted them to, the reason I wanted them to look at that way is, unfortunately, you gotta start thinking of catastrophic failures. If we start having a catastrophic failure, that's gonna be a big ticket item. What's that gonna do to the rate study?
And that's one.
So I think it's gonna behoove us to have someone keeping tabs on that, right through it.
Yeah.
So if I may get your John Henry's on that document.
Yeah, so we have an account for the CWMP, which the rate study falls under. And including this, we're gonna be going over budget by about 36,000. That includes the additional amendment we had already signed for the alternatives, the 49.9.
But the 49.9, we have to figure out what we're gonna do with that, because that was EPA mandated. That's, no one could see that.
Right.
What I'm gonna try to do is negotiate with the town hall to pick that up. Right?
Yes.
When you talk to Weston Sampson, can you get a statement or something so that I know what funds are still owing on the original rate study?
Balance on the rate study, yeah. The next one is for the digester piping specification. That's covered under ARPA. We're going to, Weston Sampson is reviewing the piping document and, the piping specs and preparing a bid document to go out to bid. We should have that bid document next week.
I'm gonna make the deadline.
Huh?
I'm gonna make the deadline on that, Peter.
We're not gonna make this on. What they're talking, Veolia is talking to the state now. See about getting extensions. That's what I just don't think.
For the bid stuff.
They don't see the snowballs chance in hell of making that in 6 months. We've already gone through 2 months.
Maybe I'll get that pen later.
Give it to him.
Sorry.
Covered that, covered that, covered that, covered that. The rate study. What was your take on the rate study? How'd you think that one? Any questions on it? Did you understand it?
Yeah, I thought it was very understandable.
I thought they did a good job of
What the
breaking it
goals
down in
were.
layman's terms.
Yep.
Jack, what did you think of it? Being a layman.
As I had indicated, you should put on what it's going to cost on a daily average, which I had 17 cents for the first year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's peanuts the first year. It does add up over 5 years or more, but it's very little money for what you get.
Well, like I said, the one thing I wanted them to emphasize was a couple things, really. The key was if we didn't go up in that 25% where we would have ended up. The other is we really wanted to minimize the impact if we could as a residents. I mean, when you hit, we're going to be going up 10% every year for the next 8 years. It is a lot of money, but where we are is pretty well where most of these towns our size with that 25%. That's what brought us into the ballpark.
Right, put us in the range based on.
We're
the
in the
draft.
range,
Yep.
but the thing is, we had a lot of repairs coming on.
Can I add something else? I think what also you should do is on that document is put what the average is if someone's on the MWRA. It's much higher.
Yeah, good.
Much higher.
Good point.
Someone told me it's over $3,000 for Quincy. I don't know if that's correct or not, though.
It could be. I remember one time we had a guy I worked for over there, had to get a lawyer. Because you own the business in the city of Quincy. And the NWRA came in and tried to make you pay extra a pollutant busting ever. So she challenged them in court.
Yeah, everybody thinks that WRA is a gift. I mean, to save all, it's a very costly endeavor, but,
So in that rate study, it said the rates are guaranteed, but it's not locked into that. It's guaranteed based on today's information.
right, what this rate study is exactly what Sherry just said. It's based on all the data we gave them from the CWMP, the rate study, and as we're looking at it now. It does not take into consideration if something croaks on us. But the one thing I want to point out is where is those numbers that the average ratepayer would be paying. I had that here around my handy little. Oh, here it is, yeah. I did, I lost it. I mean, if we're gonna be going, listen, one sheet that didn't print, damn it. Oh, okay, here it is, here. You know, we're gonna be going up from 741 to 815 to 897, 987, and what was that, a quarter? Okay, that was, the average residential bill will go from $163 a year to $655 over that time period. So, I mean, if you wanna look at it, I think that's, unfortunately, it's another tax, really. So your taxes are going up, quarterly, it's gonna be another $100 a year. Just to use sewer on your taxes, not counting, you know, what else you're paying for any other thing in town. Not counting what water's gonna be charging.
I went up there and wash our cars this year.
I don't know, I surely think they're gonna be able to lift that water ban, I think that.
They haven't lifted it yet in 30 years.
It's getting expensive to live in Rockland.
It's getting expensive to live anywhere.
Yeah. Okay, with no Robin, we can't do an admin update or a junior assistant or Veolia. Where do we stand, Veolia? I had them modify task 1 to incorporate the next 2 submittals. Now remember, there's 2 submittals coming up. First submittal is in May, which is what we've done between November and May. The other key one is, remember, it's the September 30th is one due. And that's the one where we gotta tell them what are we gonna implement from the CWMP. I think that's due September 30th.
September 30th. I have a note to submit to the EPA and the Mass DEP the final CWMP as of April 30th.
Right. Now, that's a point of discussion with the EPA right now. We're gonna meet the deadline for the submittal. But the question is, did they want us to submit it before public comment period or after public comment period? We can meet it, we can, we'll see that we can't do both. We can have it ready for April for public comment, but that's gonna be another month. So that'll put it to the end of May. We tried talking with the EPA last week. I got a hold of the EPA yesterday. They told me to contact Mass DEP. So it's, you know, it's like he said, she said. So they want to make sure they're both happy. Dave Burns will be he's pretty lenient on it. So either way, we don't think it's a big deal. We don't want to ask for an extension on anything right now. I think we're going to need to pocket that extension for the phosphorus.
So what's this September?
September 23rd, September 30th is, by then we have the CWMP in our hands the end of April.
Yeah.
We have got to go through it and say, okay, what recommendations from the CWMP are we going to implement? How are we going to finance them? And what stage we're going to put them in.
Summer, okay.
Like I said, everything has a price. And those implementations are not in this rate study. because we don't know what they're gonna recommend yet, which is why I said I'd like to have a 1-year review. And one of the, I got to laugh, one comment I got was that, well, why did you do that? Why don't we just lock it in? You just want to go up more? I go, no, it's not whether I wanted to do it. I said, if Murphy comes in and says it's also going to cost you this, you're going to have, what are you going to wait to 10 years to keep that in? You might as well do it now. That's how we get into this hole in the first place. So if we're reviewing it 1 year, we should have pretty well all the sand shifted out to where we should be, especially with this EPA order and what it's going to cost us. We'll have the upgrade, and then, okay, 3 years we'll look at it, and then the 5th year. And then, I think, after the 5th year, we'll do a full-blown rate study again. Because by then, you're gonna have
Everything will have changed.
a lot of things will be changed.
Yeah.
But,
You're gonna be shocked when it's in 5 years, which I might have to go to.
we've got to start thinking how we're gonna get some revenue. And that is, it's scary because we don't want them saying developer is the key, because it's not. I mean, we got to have the capacity to let him get in before we start chasing his I&I. If he wants to come in and put 100,000 gallons in, we got to have that 100,000 gallons to give him, and then take his money to look for the next guy.
Yes.
And global warming's not helping out. With that, I'll throw it open to public comment. You got anything, kid?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions.
Sure.
You had said that the Memorial School, the I&I was over 100,000 gallons per day. Does that include the high school,
That whole area.
that whole area? Okay. Because I would think with the high school it would be bigger, way bigger.
No, I think it's that whole. I think it's that whole basin.
Okay, on that. And now, as far as storage, when you start developing or rebuilding, is there a possibility of trucking some of the sewerage to Brockton, who has extra capacity?
Rockland, with what they take for Abington, is that capacity. They can't take anymore. They've already told they won't take any more from Abington.
Well, I know they don't want to take that, but I thought they had extra capacity for themselves.
I don't know. See, those are things that we're gonna have to get into
I
planning
heard
down the
that part
road.
of Bridgewater was supposed to go on to Brockton, but
Yeah, but on an emergency basis, where you're rebuilding, they might be willing.
No, if we can, I mean, that's something we're gonna have to, but that's why I was going into, and I had mentioned that to the previous Board of Commissioners, that when we start an upgrade, you've got to start, we should have started planning then for the extra capacity, but they didn't want them. That we've got to try to be around 1.5, my opinion, 1.5 million gallons steady. So right now, before we go into the upgrade, because then we have storage room. We have room to play with.
Yeah.
But I think our goal should be 1.8.
Okay, and over by the walking track, the stream that's in back, that was rerouted. So they buried the original stream. That could still be flowing water.
Oh, it probably is.
Okay.
They have, I mean, they've found 2 drains over the past 3 years they didn't know they had. But the one they popped up there last week, I mean, if you wanted to put a handheld flow meter in, you would have ripped your arm off.
Well, I suspected they had a lot more.
So they did what they could. And again, they can't go back till June on that, but I want to put it, we'll find out exactly what it's spewing, but I mean, the town is going to have to help out.
And there's supposedly an underground stream where the old mill was that burned down, under that. That's per guy John that used to live at...
That I don't know. How should
We're
that I don't
Exchange and
know.
Union Street. He said there was an underground aquifer that went across that land.
Well, I know some people on Howard Street that have some pumps that they're always pumping, so that could be true.
Yeah. Okay, but just because, as you probably know, if you bury it, it still flows.
yes.
Oh, yeah. And once you put a foundation in, it's, see, that's my biggest concern. One of my big concerns is what are they going to do with these projects? I mean, you can say, well, it's 40B, you can't fight 40B. But yeah, you can. If you don't have it to give them,
We don't have it.
you can't give it to them. And we're under a compliance order.
And I was wondering if Lori Child, she had a couple of programs she was gonna run. Was she able to get any monies or anything going, or?
Oh, Jennifer?
No, Lori
Lori
Childs.
Oh, I don't know.
She was gonna do that thing with the seniors, and then she was gonna try to talk to one of the senators, and I hope she got past where I did when I talked to them, so.
No, I appreciate Laurie's help. I really do, as far as that. I do. But it's got to be coordinated. One can't go off in one direction, and then we're going to be paying consultants to do the same thing. I mean, it's got to be focused. We have to know what each other's doing.
Yeah.
Right now, we've got financial analysts from Wright Pierce, Viola, and Weston Sampson looking at what our financial options are.
Okay.
And it'd be a waste of time for Laurie, if they're looking at the same thing and Laurie's doing it,
Well,
and they're going to be
Are
contacted.
they looking at the government grants though?
They're looking at government grants and state grants. They're looking at everything.
Okay. All right.
I mean, once we get through,
But I think that coordinated approach would be nice if we could get that moving towards development plans as well.
we are, because what we're going to be doing is, you mean for project?
Yeah, for the building projects
Yeah.
in town hall, I think, you know.
Well, we're going to have to talk to,
We
we're
need to
going to have
start
to talk
coming
to.
together on this.
That's why I wanted to talk to Water.
Yep.
Okay, how are you approaching it? And then my next step was going to be talking to planning.
Mhm.
I mean, they're the first ones to see it.
Mhm.
I say, look, I spoke with Water, here's what their constraints are, and here's our constraints. I mean, ours is a fixed problem. We cannot
Right.
rejuvenate with rain. I mean, rain is our killer, but water is a blessing. They're in a real bind. I mean, everything they did was for naught. So with that, I'll take a motion in today's meeting.
One
Yeah,
question,
well,
shoot.
one question.
Shoot.
We had received a notice that the EPA is opening public comment on potable water facilities, general permit. I thought
We did that, that's all covered. Lori sent that out as an email. That is the NIPD's permit we've already taken care of.
That's
It's a general comment period to, I think, for an understanding. The Mass DEP already issued our permit, and it's effective April 1. We received that back in
Right, I thought we were
January,
not that.
December.
Yeah, okay.
That was all set back in December.
Yeah. Good.
I'll take a motion in the meeting.
I make the motion, we end the meeting.
I will second that.
All in favor, Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Valley?
Yes.
And Chucky was a yes, too. Thank you very much for coming.